Dr. Amanda Hayes had spent 15 years searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence, but nothing in her career had prepared her for this moment. The massive holographic display at NASA's Deep Space Communications Center erupted with alerts as 27 crystalline vessels pierced through the darkness of space, their translucent hulls catching sunlight and fracturing it into impossible patterns across the solar system. "Those are not natural formations," she breathed, her coffee forgotten and growing cold beside her terminal. The ships moved with deliberate purpose, their formation suggesting both organization and intelligence. But it was their composition that defied everything she knew about spacefaring technology. They appeared to be made entirely of some sort of crystalline material that should have shattered in the vacuum of space. The first transmission came as pulses of light, complex patterns that danced across our instruments like aurora borealis in fast forward. While their colleagues scrambled to decode it using traditional methods, Amanda noticed something familiar in the rhythm. It reminded her of the bioluminescent patterns of deep-sea creatures she'd studied during her postdoc work on communication systems. "Run it through the marine life algorithm," she ordered, her fingers flying across the haptic interface. "Filter for cephalopod communication patterns, then scale up the complexity by a factor of 10. The computer worked for several tense seconds before the light patterns resolved into comprehensible data. The message that emerged sent chills down her spine. "We seek sanctuary. We carry the last seeds of our civilization, the hunter's approach." Within hours, the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Amanda found herself presenting to a room full of grim-faced world leaders, explaining how she'd managed first contact while trying to convey the urgency she'd felt in the aliens' message. "The species calls themselves the Thelkai," she explained, projecting a three-dimensional image of one of their ships. "Their entire technology seems to be based on crystalline structures that can store and process vast amounts of data. From what we've decoded so far, they're refugees fleeing from something they call the Vorkath Empire." The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs, but before anyone could raise objections, the air in the center of the room shimmered. A figure materialized, or rather, assembled itself from points of light. The Thelkai ambassador, Ixthan, stood before them, its crystalline form refracting the room's light into rainbow cascades across the walls. "We apologize for this intrusion." Ixthan's voice resonated directly in their minds, accompanied by subtle pulses of light from within its crystalline form. "But time grows short, and we must show you why we chose Earth as our sanctuary." The air filled with projections, memories stored within Ixthan's very being. They watched in horror as crystalline cities shattered under the onslaught of massive dark ships. The Vorkath, towering beings encased in living metal, methodically destroyed everything in their path. "We were peaceful," Ixthan continued, its light pulses dimming with sorrow. "Scholars, artists, historians. We preserved the knowledge and cultures of thousands of civilizations within ourselves. The Vorkath saw this as a threat. They seek to control all knowledge to ensure no species rises to challenge their dominion." "Why Earth?" General Matthews demanded, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "We're centuries behind your technology. We can barely reach our own moon." Ixthan's form brightened, and new images filled the air, human history, from ancient cave paintings to modern achievements. "We have been watching, learning. You humans, you adapt. You innovate. When faced with overwhelming odds, you do not submit. You find another way. The Vorkath dismissed you as primitives, but we saw something they missed." The crystalline being turned to face Amanda directly. "You proved it today, Dr. Hayes. When our transmission defied traditional decoding, you didn't give up. You looked to your oceans, to nature, and found a way to understand us. That adaptability, that creativity, it is what we need. What the galaxy needs. A new alert flashed across Amanda's tablet. More ships were appearing at the edge of the solar system. These dark and angular, like knives cutting through space. They have found us, Ixtan said softly. Now humanity must choose. Will you stand with us, or will you stand aside? While the UN Security Council debated the fate of their crystalline visitors, Amanda found herself drawn to the temporary Thalkay encampment in the Nevada desert. The aliens had created a makeshift settlement, their ships partially embedded in the sand, refracting the harsh sunlight into gentle auroras that danced across the landscape. She was documenting the crystalline growth patterns when she heard it, a sound like wind chimes shattering. Following the noise, she discovered a small form huddled behind one of the ships, its crystalline surface cracked and leaking luminescent energy. "Oh God," she whispered, approaching slowly. The being was clearly a child by Thalkay standards, its form smaller and more delicate than the adults. A jagged fracture ran down its side, pulsing with trapped memories trying to escape. "I am Celery," the child managed, its voice wavering in Amanda's mind. "Please, the memories. They must not be lost." Acting on instinct, Amanda pulled out her tablet and aimed it at the fracture. The escaping data began streaming into her device, overwhelming its storage capacity within seconds. But what she saw in those fragments left her cold. The memories showed massive Vorkath harvesting ships, their holds filled not with prisoners, but with the shattered remains of countless crystalline beings. The Vorkath weren't just conquering species, they were collecting them, extracting the stored knowledge from their broken forms. Dr. Hayes. A sharp voice cut through her horror. General Matthews strode toward her, his face grim. "We've got a situation. Our deep space arrays just picked up an anomaly in the asteroid belt." The tablet screen shifted to show what looked like a typical asteroid, but something about its movement caught Amanda's attention. The trajectory's too perfect, she realized. Natural objects don't maintain that kind of orbit. "Exactly," Matthews nodded. "We think it's a Vorkath scout ship using some kind of cloaking technology. They're searching for the Thalkay." A soft light pulsed behind them as Ixathan materialized. "The Hunter's Eye," the ambassador confirmed. "They seed them across systems, waiting for refugees to reveal themselves." The crystalline being turned to Amanda. "You have seen the memories, haven't you? Now you understand what truly drives them." "Knowledge is power," Amanda said softly, looking down at the injured child. "And your living databases." "We preserve more than facts," Ixtan explained. "We store cultures, art, music, the soul of civilizations. The Vorkath believe controlling information means controlling the galaxy. What they cannot control, they destroy." The tablet in Amanda's hands suddenly lit up with new data streams. The injured child, Celery, was interfacing with it directly, showing more memories. Amanda gasped as she saw images of Earth, transmissions the Thalkay had collected over decades. Human music, art, literature, scientific achievements, but most importantly, human resilience. Cities rising from the ashes of war, people helping strangers during disasters, impossible innovations born from necessity. "Now you see why we chose Earth," Ixtan said. "Your species does not just survive, you help others survive. You take what you learn and transform it into something new." General Matthews's radio crackled. "Sir, the object is changing course. It's heading toward the atmosphere. If that scout confirms our presence, Ixtan warned, they will send the cleansing fleet. Millions will die. Amanda looked at the injured child, then at her tablet full of precious memories, and finally at the approaching threat in the sky. A crazy idea began forming in her mind. "General," she said, "what if we could turn their own search methods against them? The Thalkay store and process data within their crystalline structures. If we could adapt that technology to create a false trail." Matthew's eyes widened as he caught on. "Lead them away from Earth." "No," Amanda corrected, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "Lead them exactly where we want them. The Vorkath think they're the hunters. Let's show them what happens when they hunt near humanity's home." Above them, the false asteroid grew closer, unaware it was about to encounter something the Vorkath had never faced before. Human ingenuity combined with Thalkay knowledge. The real hunt was about to begin. The Nevada desert bloomed with impossible architecture. 3 weeks after the UN's decision to grant sanctuary to the Thalkay, their settlement had transformed into a marvel that defied human engineering. Crystalline spires caught the dawn light, channeling solar energy through their structures with an efficiency that made the world's best solar panels look primitive. Amanda stood at her makeshift lab at the base of the largest spire, analyzing data from their latest integration experiment. Beside her, Ix then guided a team of engineers as they attempted to merge human fiber optic technology with Thalkay crystal matrices. "Remarkable," the ambassador commented as the crystals accepted the fiber optic strands, incorporating them into their structure. "Your materials are crude by our standards, yet they possessed properties we never considered. The way you force light to bend. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best," Amanda replied, but her attention was drawn to an alert on her tablet. The power readings from the crystal were spiking, everyone back. The crystal matrix suddenly flared with blinding light. When it faded, the fiber optics hadn't just been integrated, they'd been transformed. The crystal had restructured the glass at a molecular level, creating something entirely new. "Well, that's different," Captain Sarah Rodriguez, their military liaison, observed dryly. "Please tell me this one won't explode like last week's attempt." Amanda ran her scanner over the hybrid crystal. "No, this is incredible. The crystal's processing capacity has increased tenfold, but it's using barely any energy. It's not just storing data anymore, it's enhancing it." A commotion from the central plaza interrupted their discussion. One of the elder Thalkay, Venra, was swaying dangerously, their crystalline form showing stress fractures. Before anyone could react, the ancient being collapsed, shattering into thousands of glittering shards. "Contain the memories." Ixthan's mental voice boomed with unprecedented urgency. "If they disperse." Amanda was already moving, setting up an energy containment field around the fragments. But something was wrong. The memories weren't trying to escape. They were organizing themselves, projecting images into the air with devastating clarity. They watched as a Vorkath agent, disguised in a shape-shifting mesh, infiltrated a peaceful civilization. The agent seeded quantum crystalline bombs throughout the planet's infrastructure. When they detonated, entire continents were transformed into lifeless crystal, trapping billions in eternal stasis. "They're already here," Ixthan whispered, their light dimming with horror. "The sleeper agents. We led them right to you." Captain Rodriguez was already on her comm, ordering increased security protocols, but Amanda noticed something else in the projected memories, a pattern hidden in the background radiation of the attacks. "Wait," she said, fingers flying across her tablet as she analyzed the data. "These signatures. They're identical to anomalous readings we've been detecting around the base. But they're not coming from infiltrators. She pulled up a map of the strange energy spikes they'd been tracking. When overlaid with the settlement's layout, they formed a perfect geometric pattern. It's a defense grid, she realized. The Thelkai didn't just build a settlement. They'd been constructing a planetary defense system. But why hide it from us? Because we have never activated it, Ixthan admitted. The grid was designed eons ago, when our people still remembered how to wage war. Using it requires a mindset we no longer possess. Captain Rodriguez studied the pattern with professional interest. But humans still remember. Your crystal technology, guided by human military strategy, could create a defense system unlike anything in the galaxy, Amanda finished. She looked at the transformed fiber optic crystal on her workbench, an idea forming. And I think we just discovered how to power it. A new alert flashed across their screens. Massive objects decelerating at the edge of the solar system. The Vorkath had found them. How long? Rodriguez demanded. 3 days, maybe 4, Amanda calculated. But that's not our biggest problem. She pointed to the readings from their planetary scans. These energy signatures, they're increasing exponentially. Whatever the defense grid is designed to do, it's charging up on its own. If we don't figure out how to control it, then it will tear itself apart, Ixthan confirmed grimly, and take half the continent with it. The race was on. They had to master technology that the Thelkai themselves feared, integrate it with human warfare concepts, and find the hidden Vorkath agents, all before their enemies arrived. Or before their own defenses destroyed them. Someone's trying to access the defense grid mainframe. Amanda's voice cut through the pre-dawn darkness as she burst into the command center. Behind her, the crystalline spires of the settlement pulsed with an increasingly unstable rhythm, their light casting strange shadows across worried faces. Captain Rodriguez immediately pulled up the security feeds. Location. That's the problem, Amanda said, projecting a holographic map from her modified tablet. The access attempts are coming from 12 different points simultaneously. Our sensors can't distinguish if they're Vorkath agents or our own people, Rodriguez finished grimly. Intelligence had already identified a growing movement among certain military and political circles. Those who believed surrendering the Thelkai to the Vorkath was Earth's best chance for survival. A crystalline chime announced Ixthan's arrival. The grid's resonance is approaching critical levels. If the harmonic pattern destabilizes, the ambassador's glow flickered anxiously. How long? Amanda demanded, already running calculations. 3 hours, perhaps less. Rodriguez cursed under her breath. We've got 2,000 Thelkai in the settlement. Evacuation would take at least 5 hours, and that's assuming. The lights suddenly died. In the darkness, the crystal spires pulsing became more pronounced, their rhythm increasing like a heartbeat growing erratic. Emergency powers not responding, a technician reported. Amanda's tablet flashed with new data. The saboteurs didn't just cut power. They'd locked us out of all major systems. They're trying to force our hand. Through the command center's windows, they could see dark figures moving between the crystal structures. Instead of avoiding the security patrols, they seemed to be herding them, manipulating their movements according to some larger plan. It's a resonance pattern, Amanda realized, watching the security team's movements. She overlaid their positions on the grid map. They're using our own patrols to create interference waves in the crystal matrix. The more we try to stop them, the more we contribute to the destabilization, Ixthan finished. Ingenious and fatal. A message flashed across all working screens. Surrender! The aliens or WACC air. Rodriguez reached for her comm unit, ready to order all patrols to stand down. But Amanda grabbed her arm. Wait, look at the resonance pattern they're creating. She quickly sketched a series of mathematical equations on her tablet. The saboteurs understood Thalkai crystalline technology well enough to turn it against itself, but they made one crucial mistake. They assumed the crystals work like Earth's silicon-based computers. They don't. Rodriguez asked, watching the dark figures continue their carefully choreographed movements. No, Amanda smiled grimly. Thalkai crystals don't just store and process data, they learn, adapt. Every resonance pattern we're seeing. She pointed to where new crystalline formations were quietly growing between the spires, following the saboteur's own movement pattern. They're teaching the grid how to counter itself. Ixthan's glow brightened with understanding. Of course, our ancestors built the grid not to fight wars, but to prevent them. It doesn't generate destructive energy, it generates harmony. So how do we use that? Rodriguez demanded, aware that time was running out. Amanda was already typing commands into her tablet. We don't fight the resonance, we amplify it. Every patrol, every saboteur, every movement they make. We mirror it, but slightly out of phase. Creating a cancellation wave, Ixthan realized. But the power requirements will come from them, Amanda finished. The more they try to destabilize the grid, the more energy they'll feed into our counter-resonance. Rodriguez grinned, fighting fire with fire. Very human of you, Doctor. The next hour was controlled chaos. Under Amanda's direction, security teams matched the saboteurs' movements, but with precise timing differences. Each crystal spire began humming at a different frequency, creating a complex interference pattern that grew stronger with every passing minute. The saboteurs, realizing too late what was happening, tried to break their pattern. But the grid had learned from their own actions, using their knowledge against them. One by one, the dark figures found themselves trapped in corridors of light, their own resonance patterns turned into crystalline cages. As dawn broke over the Nevada desert, the last of the saboteurs was secured. The crystal spires settled into a harmonious glow, stronger and more stable than ever before. They sought to use our greatest weakness against us, Ixthan observed, watching human and Thalkai medical teams tend to the injured. Instead, they helped us turn it into our greatest strength. Amanda nodded, but her attention was already on the sky. They'd won this battle, but the Vorkath were still coming. And now they knew exactly what humanity was capable of. The real test was about to begin. The Vorkath arrival darkened Earth's skies like an eclipse. Their world ships, each larger than Manhattan, took up position over major cities in a display of overwhelming force. The message was clear. Resistance would be met with absolute destruction. In the Nevada Command Center, Amanda watched the tactical display with forced calm. The past 72 hours had been a blur of final preparations, evacuations, and last-minute adjustments to their hybrid defense system. Their formation is exactly as the simulations predicted, she noted, gesturing to where the massive ships hung in precise geometric patterns. Beside her, Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. Predictable. That's their weakness. The captain tapped the display, highlighting energy readings. They haven't adapted their tactics in centuries. Why would they? No one's ever survived long enough to make them need to. The main screen flickered, and a Vorkath commander appeared. Its biomechanical armor pulsed with dark energy, face hidden behind a mask that seemed to absorb light itself. Primitive species, the alien's voice resonated with artificial harmonics. You harbor criminals against the Empire. Surrender the Thelakai, and we may spare your major population centers. Before Earth's leaders could respond, the Vorkath ships launched their first strike. Thousands of energy projectiles descended toward the planet's surface, each carrying enough power to level a city. Now, Amanda commanded. The crystal defense grid hummed to life. Each crystalline spire began pulsing in complex patterns, creating interference waves that rippled through the atmosphere. The Vorkath weapons hit what seemed like clear air, and shattered, their energy redirected and amplified by the very frequencies they generated. Impossible, the Vorkath commander snarled. Your technology is centuries behind. Wrong, Amanda cut in. We don't need centuries of advancement. We just needed to understand one thing. Energy can't be destroyed, only transformed. On screens worldwide, humanity watched as their impossible defense held. The Thelkai crystals, enhanced by human innovation, didn't just block the Vorkath weapons. They absorbed them, growing stronger with each attack. But the Vorkath commander's masked face betrayed no concern. Interesting. The primitives have learned some tricks. Deploy the crystallizer. A new weapon emerged from the largest world ship. It looked almost organic, its surface writhing with dark tendrils of energy. As it powered up, the air itself began to change, molecules realigning into crystalline patterns. They're trying to transform our atmosphere. Ixthan's voice carried genuine fear. Turn your world into a crystal prison, trapping everything in stasis. Amanda's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the weapon's energy signature. The crystallization effect requires a specific resonance frequency to propagate, if we can disrupt it. The sky crackled with energy. Where the weapon's influence spread, clouds froze into glittering shapes, rain turning to diamond dust in mid-fall. The effect began creeping downward, threatening to entomb everything it touched. Standard disruption frequencies aren't working, Rodriguez reported, her voice tense. We need something they won't expect. Something. Human. Amanda finished, an idea forming. She turned to Ixthan. Your crystals can store and reproduce any kind of data, right? Including sound. The ambassador's glow pulsed with understanding. Yes, but... Amanda was already connecting her tablet to the defense grid's main controls. Captain, patch me through to every speaker system in range, and someone get me the New York Philharmonic's latest recording. Rodriguez stared at her. You're going to fight a doomsday weapon with... music. Not just music, Amanda grinned, fingers dancing across the interface. Human music. Complex harmonies, shifting rhythms, emotional resonance. Everything the Vorkath's rigid, mathematical patterns can't account for. The defense grid's crystals began to pulse with new energy as Earth's greatest musicians played through them. Classical orchestras, rock bands, jazz ensembles, and indigenous drums all merged into a symphony of human creativity. The crystals amplified and transformed the sound waves, sending them rippling through the partially crystallized atmosphere. Where human music met Vorkath energy, the artificial crystallization began to crack. The mathematical precision of their weapon couldn't maintain cohesion against the organic, evolving patterns of Earth's combined musical heritage. The Vorkath commander watched in evident confusion as their unstoppable weapon was neutralized by what they considered primitive noise. But Amanda and her team weren't celebrating yet. They'd stopped the first wave, but the Vorkath still had an entire fleet at their disposal. And the commander's next words proved the real battle was just beginning. Impressive. Now witness why we are called the Empire of the End. The Vorkath commander's promise of escalation proved immediate and devastating. As their crystallization weapon failed, the massive world ships began reconfiguring, mechanical segments shifting like pieces of a dark puzzle. Energy readings are off the charts. Rodriguez reported, her screens blazing with warnings. They're combining their ships into some kind of megastructure. Amanda watched in horror as the world ships merged into a vast geometric shape that seemed to bend space itself around it. They're creating a resonance amplifier, she realized. If they fire all their weapons through that formation, the harmonic wavelength will be too powerful for our defenses to absorb. Ixthan finished, their crystalline form dimming with concern. But Amanda noticed something else. The way the Vorkath ships moved, the precise mathematical patterns they followed. They're predictable, she muttered. Too predictable. Like they're following a script they can't deviate from. She pulled up the data they'd gathered from previous encounters. Every Vorkath attack, every response, every formation, all followed exact mathematical progressions. Their power wasn't in their adaptability, but in their absolute precision. That's it. She turned to Rodriguez. Captain, remember how our troops train? War games, simulations. Running scenarios until responses become instinct. Rodriguez nodded, then her eyes widened. They don't train, they program. Amanda's fingers flew across her console. The Vorkath aren't warriors, they're executioners. They've automated their entire military doctrine. That's why they hate the Thelke's organic data storage. It's unpredictable. Like humans. She connected her tablet to the main crystal matrix. Ixthan, you said Thelke crystals can learn and adapt. What if we fed them something completely new? Not just data, but human instinct. The ambassador's glow pulsed with understanding. The neural interface we developed, but the strain of processing human consciousness, won't be on the Thelkai alone. Amanda pulled up the base's personnel files. Every soldier, every pilot, every strategist who's willing to link their mind to the crystal matrix. Not to control it, but to teach it. Rodriguez was already calling up her best people. Within minutes, volunteers began arriving at the crystal interface stations they'd built. Amanda watched as each human connected to the matrix, their tactical knowledge, combat instincts, and creative problem-solving merging with Thelkai crystalline processing. The effect was immediate. The defense grid's energy patterns became more fluid, less predictable. When the Vorkath fired their first combined blast, Earth's shields didn't just absorb the attack. They redirected it in ways that defied mathematical prediction. Impossible. The Vorkath commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. Your defenses cannot exceed their programmed parameters. That's the difference between us. Amanda replied, watching as human intuition guided crystal energy in beautiful, chaotic patterns. We don't follow programs. We improvise. As if to prove her point, a squad of Earth's special forces chose that moment to make their move. Using the confusion of the energy battle as cover, they had magnetized their boots and used simple kinetic weapons, ballistic grappling hooks and titanium cables, to board one of the smaller Vorkath ships. Primitive projectile weapons. The commander's tone dripped with disdain. Your metal slugs cannot penetrate our shields. They weren't supposed to. Rodriguez grinned as reports came in. The boarding team had attached electromagnets to key points on the ship's hull, creating interference patterns in its shield generators. Technology centuries ahead of Earth's was being defeated by basic physics and human ingenuity. The captured ship's systems began to overload as its automated responses failed to counter the unpredictable human assault. More importantly, its connection to the Vorkath battle network was compromised, creating a cascade of errors through their perfectly synchronized fleet. Their entire strategy depends on perfect mathematical harmony, Amanda explained to the stunned Thelkai observers. So we're teaching them a new song, humanity's song. Messy, unpredictable, and impossible to program against. As the Vorkath fleet's formation began to falter, Amanda allowed herself a small smile. They hadn't won yet, but they'd proven something crucial. In a fight between perfect calculation and human creativity, bet on the species that invented jazz. The real question was, how would the Empire of the End handle its first taste of chaos? The captured ship's data core is a goldmine, Amanda announced, her eyes scanning streams of decoded information. The Vorkath don't just share tactical data, they share everything. Each ship is connected to their entire Imperial network. The command center had transformed into an impromptu war room, with humans and Thelkai working side by side to process the intelligence windfall. The captured ship's systems had given them unprecedented access to the Empire's communications. Their entire network. Rodriguez leaned forward, a predatory gleam in her eyes. Can we broadcast through it? Better. Amanda pulled up a complex diagram of information flows. Remember how the Thelkai store memories? The Vorkath do something similar, but mechanically. Their whole empire runs on shared data, including, she highlighted a particular stream of information, their dirty little secret. The tactical display filled with images extracted from the Vorkath archives. They showed the Empire's rise to power, not through innovation or strength, but through theft. Every piece of their advanced technology had been stolen from conquered species, their rigid mathematical minds unable to truly innovate. They're parasites, Rodriguez realized. They can't create, only copy and optimize. And now, Amanda's fingers flew across her console. Every subjugated species in their empire is about to learn the truth, along with something even more important, that they can be beaten. With a few keystrokes, she began broadcasting their defense of Earth across all Vorkath frequencies. The images were powerful, human creativity overwhelming perfect calculation, simple magnets disrupting advanced shields, music shattering their crystallization weapon. You dare. The Vorkath commander's voice boomed through the command center, but there was something new in its artificial harmonics. Fear. We do more than dare, Amanda replied, knowing her words would reach every corner of the Empire. We create. We adapt. We evolve. Everything you couldn't steal from the species you conquered, because it can't be copied, only learned. The effect was immediate. Across Vorkath space, subjugated species began to resist. Their own broadcasts filled the network, stories of resistance, of innovation, of hope. The Empire's perfect mathematical order descended into beautiful chaos. Launch Operation Prism Break, Rodriguez commanded. The captured Vorkath ship, now piloted by a joint human Thelkai crew, plunged into the heart of the enemy fleet. But instead of attacking, it began broadcasting something unexpected. Art. Human paintings, Thelkai light sculptures, music from 1,000 worlds. All the creative works the Vorkath had tried to suppress. Their shields, Ixthan observed with wonder, they're destabilizing. The irregular patterns of artistic expression. They cannot compute fast enough to maintain synchronization. The Vorkath fleet's perfect geometric formation began to break apart as their automated systems tried, and failed to process the flood of creative information. Ships collided, Shields flickered, and weapon systems misfired as their rigid protocols encountered something they were never designed to handle: pure, unfiltered imagination. Your primitive chaos cannot defeat mathematical perfection, the commander insisted, but its voice wavered. That's where you're wrong, Amanda countered. Math isn't about perfection. It's about possibilities. Just like art, just like music, just like life itself. You tried to reduce the universe to equations, but you forgot what those equations describe: the infinite beauty of creation. As if to prove her point, the Thelke defense grid began to sing. Not with human music this time, but with something new, a harmony of human emotion and crystalline precision, of chaos and order combined. The sound rippled through space, and where it touched Vorkath ships, their crew began to remember. Remember what it was like to create, not just copy. Remember the joy of discovery, not just acquisition. Remember that they too had once been more than living calculators. The commander's next transmission was different, its artificial harmonics replaced by something almost organic. What is this feeling? That, Amanda smiled, is the sound of an empire learning to dance. Across the galaxy, the rigid structures of the Empire of the End began to crack, not in defeat, but in transformation. The species they had suppressed rose up not with weapons, but with art, with music, with all the beautiful chaos of free expression. It wasn't just a victory, it was a renaissance. 3 months after the fall of the Empire of the End, the Nevada desert bloomed with new life. The Thelke settlement had transformed into a sprawling metropolis of crystal and steel, where organic human architecture merged seamlessly with crystalline spires. But it wasn't just a city anymore. It was the first campus of the Stellar Academy. Amanda stood at the podium, looking out over an audience that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Humans sat beside Thelke, while reformed Vorkath, their biomechanical armor now pulsing with colorful patterns, mingled with representatives from dozens of formerly subjugated species. "We gathered here first as refugees and defenders," she began, her voice carrying across the assembly. "Now we gather as teachers and students, creators and innovators. The Stellar Academy isn't just a school. It's a promise that knowledge should never be hoarded, only shared and transformed." Behind her, a massive crystal monument caught the setting sun, transforming it into a symphony of light and color. Within its facets, memories danced: the arrival of the Thelke, the defense of Earth, the liberation of an empire. But more importantly, it showed what came after. The first stumbling attempts of Vorkath artists to create original works, the joy of formerly suppressed species rediscovering their cultural heritage, the endless possibilities of combining different ways of thinking. The Vorkath believed that perfection meant control. Amanda continued. They sought to impose mathematical order on an inherently chaotic universe. But they forgot something fundamental. Chaos isn't the enemy of order, it's the source of all innovation. She gestured to where human scientists worked with Thelke scholars, their combined knowledge giving birth to technologies that neither species could have developed alone. Nearby, a former Vorkath commander sat with Earth children, learning to paint with actual pigments instead of programmed patterns. "Our strength never lay in our weapons or our technology," she said. "It lay in our ability to embrace the unknown, to see beauty in imperfection, to find new paths when the old ones failed. Humanity didn't just defend Earth, we reminded the galaxy how to dream." Ixthan floated forward, their crystalline form now adorned with strips of woven metal, a human artistic influence they had eagerly adopted. And the Thelke learned that preserving knowledge isn't enough. It must be shared, challenged, transformed. Our crystals now sing with human music, dance with human emotions, grow in patterns we never imagined possible. The monument behind them shifted, displaying scenes from the new classes being taught at the Academy. Human intuition and creativity courses for Vorkath students. Thalk data processing techniques for human researchers. Art workshops where dozens of species collaborated on works that defied traditional classification. But our greatest achievement, Amanda smiled, isn't what we've built. It's what we've begun. She nodded to Rodriguez, now commandant of the Academy's security division, who activated a holographic display of the galaxy. Points of light began appearing, new academies being established on worlds across former Vorkath space. The Stellar Sanctuary Accord isn't just about protecting the vulnerable, Rodriguez added. It's about ensuring that no species' light is ever dimmed again. Every world that hosts an academy becomes a beacon, a promise that knowledge and creativity will flow freely across the stars. As if in response, the crystal monument flared with new intensity. Within its facets, a new memory took shape, not of the past, but of the present moment. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy gathered not in fear or submission, but in celebration of their differences and the infinite possibilities they created together. We came together in crisis, Amanda concluded, but we remained together by choice. The Empire sought to end chaos, to impose a single way of thinking. Instead, they united the galaxy in the most powerful force that exists, the freedom to create, to learn, and to grow. The assembly erupted in a celebration that transcended species, human applause mixing with Thalkai light pulses and the rhythmic harmonics of reformed Vorkath. Above them, the monument caught the last rays of Earth's sun, scattering them across the desert in a promise made manifest. The stars would never know darkness again.